Former druggies, tell us about a traumatic but funny memory. My parents liked to party a lot in the early 80s, and made no effort to hide their drug use even though I was only 9. As anyone on coke back then knows, it was more of a social drug. No one did coke by themselves, because it was a status thing. This led me to be around some very interesting people, some of which were deep in the throes of addiction. I could go on and on with the things I witnessed as a kid, but the most entertaining story involves my father's friend, a snowstorm, and a cow. We used to live in a little rural town in Virginia back in the early 80s. A good friend of my father's, Sean, rented a big plantation-style home on a nearby cattle farm. With the seclusion of hundreds of acres around them, this place quickly became a mecca for parties that would last for days on end. This was a functional cattle farm, and had several smaller houses on the property that were built around the turn of the century to house farmhands and workers. One such house was a small 2-story brick hellhole that was being rented by another family friend who we will call Bob. Bob was the son of a wealthy socialite who made her fortune as a costume designer in the music business. Her son, however, was a degenerate drug addict living off of mommy's money, and she was too much of a softie to just cut him off. So, she rented this place for him in hopes that he wouldn't cause too much damage. One evening my father's friend threw a huge party just before a wicked snowstorm was about to hit. Most of the guests left before the roads got too bad, but not us. Nope, we crashed at Sean's and wound up being snowed in for several days. No worries, there was plenty of cocaine to get them through until the snowplows cleared the roads. For 2 days Bob had stayed up all night doing coke, and decided for some reason or another he needed to go home and feed his goats. That evening he left the safety of the main house and walked almost half a mile in the snow back to his house. I was up early watching cartoons when the phone rang. Since everyone is asleep, I answer. Hey, get your dad right now. He needs to come over right away. Hurry, kid. I think I unalived someone. Holy crap. I run upstairs and wake my dad up, frantically relaying the message. Shortly thereafter I find myself in our truck, bouncing over snow-covered fields towards Bob's house. What I see next will forever be burned into my brain. We pulled up to the house and in the front yard lay a very large and very dead black Angus cow. The front door is off the hinges and in its place is a dirty, stained sofa and what appears to be part of a bookshelf. Despite being 20 degrees outside, every window in the place is wide open. My father looks at me with a puzzled "how high am I right now" look on his face, as if he was waiting for me to validate what his eyes were comprehending. Stay in the truck, he says, tossing me the keys just in case. I immediately rolled down the window so I could hear. My dad yells towards the house, "Bob. It's me. Are you okay?" A voice calls back from inside the fortress. "They came for me, man. They tried to take me, but I showed them. I showed those pig bastards." From what my father told me later on, as he entered the house he found Bob hiding behind a flipped-over lazy boy holding a shotgun in one hand, and an almost empty bag of coke in the other. That night he walked home to get more coke and feed his goats, but mainly to get more coke. The cow must have mistaken him for a farmhand, and followed him, as they are known to do in the winter because that's when the farmers throw out hay. Before Bob was done, he heard noises outside his house. And since he was so screwed up he thought that it was the cops sneaking around his place. He yelled at them through the windows, and even kicked the front door off the hinges in an effort to intimidate them. Well, this didn't intimidate the cow, who was content on eating the hay that Bob had left for his goats in the front yard. He warned them several times to get the hell out of here or he will start shooting. Apparently the cow didn't understand the seriousness of his threats, and when Bob began shooting through his windows, Bessie took a 12-gauge slug to the skull, blowing half her cow brains across the snow. My father ended up getting Bob to give him the gun, and showed him that he had just shot a cow, not a state trooper. Bob sat in the truck with us on the ride back to Sean's house, eyes so wide you would think his eyelids had been surgically removed. On the plus side, for the rest of that winter we all ate like kings.